Hello, my friends. Welcome again to another episode of the Wise Ideal Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Harris, and I'm so excited that you've tuned back in for another week. Well, guess what, guys? We've got part two of this incredible conversation from last week's episode, and I don't want to delay the time any longer. Let's jump right in to keep the conversation going. So you mentioned the church seeing our humanity, acknowledging the maturity of millennials. But what other challenges, issues, points of frustration do you see exist there between millennials and our faith community?
Sometimes churches can be static, and in most areas of the world, you have to be able to turn on a dime. You have to know what it means to pivot. You have to make adjustments for all the appropriate reasons. And, even in the Bible, you want to be all things to all people except, in the church. Other people seem to know how to do that, right? Tic Tac changed the flavor of one of their Tic Tacs because they said millennials didn't like to do anything for extended periods of time or they got bored quickly. So the flavor actually changes in your mouth. Coach looked to do a completely different line.
Hold on, Dr. Bree. Wait a minute now. You can't bring up Tic Tac and me not say something because I hate the new flavor.
Well, not, but it wasn't for you. They still have the steady flavors for you.
Yeah, you're so right. I'm sorry. See? I just had to get on my soapbox for a minute. I'm like, man, I tried it out.
No, I get it.
Just to see if it was gonna be good. Man, I was so disappointed. I was like, man, take me back to the other Tic Tac. I like them better.
Right, but somebody's loving it, and they said, Absolutely. You know what? Everybody's not gonna like this. So let me make some adjustments. I think the church has to learn how to make those adjustments for the people they wish to serve. Because if you give us my way or the highway, we're gonna take the highway for 500, Alex. Why wouldn't we? Why would we take your way alone that doesn't even benefit us and give of our time and give at least 10% of our earned money? And you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot to ask when there are no adjustments made for our needs. I think programming in churches, isn't always impactful, right? We do things that we've been doing for many years. Like we say stuff like, oh, we do this for our community, and your community has changed two times since you started that program, and you never made any adjustments. Gentrification is happening in the hood, and we still act like we're living in the hood as opposed to knowing we have to do outreach that's going to be outside of our immediate, community. I mean, we don't always know how to pivot. We don't always know how to make the necessary adjustments in time. Like, I remember Facebook was old. We were getting off Facebook and we were more interested in Twitter, and churches were like, we have a Facebook page, everyone. Go to our Facebook page, and and we're like, child, you got to get an Instagram at this point. Everything, the church seems to wait 5 years after something is hot and then jump on. And I think if we listen to our congregations more and took a real inventory of who we had in our congregation and what they had to offer, the church would actually be trailblazing and creating what was necessary as opposed to eating dust and figuring out what everyone else was doing.
Well, I tell you what, you're talking my language now. I'm gonna do a shameless plug. My new book is coming out next week. I'm actually so excited about it. It's titled Church Strategies and Ministry Systems, and I actually spend literally about 2 chapters talking about that whole idea of pivoting and paying attention to, the culture around you. And I absolutely agree with you. Anybody that's listening to this, if you're a part of a church, I would invite you to have some very honest dialogue with folks in your church. Create some multi-generational focus groups and see what they're saying and see how those conversations interact with one another. Because as Reverend Bree just said, man, we shouldn't step foot in a church and feel like we just stepped back in time. And I think that's sort of what you're alluding to.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So the church doesn't pivot. What else? Anything else you want to add to that list?
I'm not sure that there's any. I think that's enough for people to just digest and throw darts at my picture. So that might be enough.
Did you just say throw darts at your picture?
Yes.
That's funny.
And I understand.
Yeah, I think most people that are listening to podcasts, or at least listening to my podcast, are open to the ideas and open to the thoughts. Which, you're talking about pivot. I want to pivot to a place of talking about solutions, right? Because we could really spend the rest of this year. I could have you on every single week, and we could tease out all the problems. And I think people know what many of the problems are, even in terms of how we handle people, beyond just on Sunday. I mean, during the week, how we handle our staff, how we create a healthy pipeline, how we engage with one another. I think how we, even um, how we engage in our community and the language that we use. Christianese is what we often call it sometimes, and whether or not those things are even relevant anymore or not, and all of that. So when we think about all of those things, what would you, if you're on a panel, what are you saying some of the solutions to all of these issues and challenges are?
Well, the best solution is to hire me. Um, so that you can actually do what you need to do and be in a place that will allow you to live beyond this pastor or possibly the next. The second is to actually spend time knowing who you're serving. A lot of things that we do with ourselves in mind. We don't ever ask the questions or ask the people we want to serve. And that's really because we lack enough relationship to go into our community and actually have that conversation. So you definitely want to be able to have real conversations and ask the people you wish to serve, even if that means you're going to have to develop genuine relationships before you can even be inquisitive enough to try to figure out what you need to do and how you need to change. The others is not be afraid to build leaders, not be afraid of losing your spot. Sometimes I think in churches, that's all we have. That's the only place where people seem to respect us, put us on a pedestal, or give us a title, or acknowledge our authority. And sometimes we get so drunk with that it's difficult for us to want to see other people lead. And so I think really taking the time to see what it really means to develop leaders, and not leaders for a certain position, but leaders who can go anywhere, whether you're in church, whether you're at your job, whether you're on your campus, those leadership skills will still apply. So I think those are legit starts, good beginnings.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And so if you're having a conversation with a millennial who is contemplating giving up on the church, they're contemplating, what, man, I'm just done. And some of it that they're speaking to may be justified, and some of it may not be. Yeah, if you're having a conversation with a millennial and they are frustrated with the state of the church, or frustrated with the local church, and are contemplating walking away from the church, and they've come to you for wisdom or insight, what do you tell them?
I stopped giving blanket statements with situations like that because, you say things like, like talk to your pastor, try to work with your pastor, see if she or he, is open to different opportunities, or will spend some time trying to see things in different ways, or go to them in a way that blah, blah. So I used to give those. And then I realized there were some really abusive things happening in church. And it was difficult for me to, have this line to send them back into spaces that were actually pretty detrimental to their health. And so I don't direct them back to the church anymore. I tell them to take some time to talk to God, to be specific about what they're looking for in a faith community, and do the work it takes to find that. And I've now begun to say, if you don't see it, build it. And I'm not telling you to start a church. I don't have any problem with church plants, but I do think we have a whole lot of them. And I do believe instead of having church plants, we're having church clones. And I just don't know. I don't know how that benefits people. So, but I do tell them it's okay to fellowship, with friends, to go back to house worship, Bible style, and to get what they need until they find what they need. And so if you're not finding that, find other ways around it, find other communities, find people who are willing to sit down, talk about together. But I stopped sending people back into, dangerous spaces. If it's just detrimental to their health, their being, their humanity, I don't send them back anymore. But I don't tell them to give up on the church. I definitely want them to pray about it and attempt to find that faith community and be willing to put in the work like they're actually searching. But in the meantime, in between time, get what you need.
Yeah, and that's really strong. I mean, I think that's great wisdom that you've gleaned over time with some of those discussions. If somebody tuned in late or they tuned into the middle of our discussion, I want to say that as Dr. Parker and I, Dr. Brianna and I have been talking, in no way do I want anyone to jump in halfway through this conversation and feel like we are just on a bash in the church situation because as I said in the introduction, I believe wholeheartedly in the local church. God speaks to its power. I've seen its transformative power. And beyond even all of that, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of healthy churches out there. There's so many pastors that are doing it the right way, and so many leaders who are doing it the right way, and so many churches who are figuring it out, and at least are trying to figure it out. I think our discussion, Dr. Brianna, myself, and even previous episodes, it's centered around those that give us a bad name. It's centered around those that are not pivoting and are stuck where they are, and we want to try to help them. We want to try to give them some content and some questions to ask and some framework to ask to kind of deal with all of that. So, Reverend Bree, we're gonna jump over here into these questions that I ask at the end of every episode when I have guests on. But before I do that, I want to give you some space to kind of give some closing remarks or some things that if there's something you thought we were going to discuss or that you want to discuss, I want to give you space to do that before we shift over there.
Yeah, I have this book called What Google Can't Give. It's available on Amazon and my website, www.blackmillennialcafe.com. And it gives you, it definitely shares my research. It does give solutions, and I think it helps churches, organizations, companies to begin to think about what they need to go into the future or to actually have a future as well.
No, that's incredible. So tell us a little bit more really fast about the book. Tell what Google can't give. That's a cool title.
Yeah, what Google can't give, the relevancy of the church for Black millennials in the tech age. I think oftentimes the church is like, really searching to figure out what their thing is, what their niche is, what they have to offer that anyone can't give. So I took my research, I compiled the data, I did some small groups and some interviews to figure out what the church had that no one else can give. And so in my book, you'll find out what the church has that no one else has and how to use that to your advantage to be able to carry out the mission and the cause of Christ.
And the book is available everywhere where books are sold.
Well, not Barnes and Nobles, but Amazon, you can get it. You can get it on Amazon Prime by Monday, but it's on Amazon right now, and it's on my website, www.blackmillennialcafe.com.
I love it. I love it. And listen, y'all, I want y'all to go get the book. I believe in supporting authors that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into stuff. As an author, I know how much work it takes to get these books out there, get them sold, get them moving, get the information. And most authors, most of us are not writing these books for the sake of just writing them. There is something that has struck our heart, our mind, and there's a message that we're trying to convey to other people. So y'all go get the book. Y'all go check her out. All of the information that she just shared will be in the show notes down at the bottom of this episode. And so, all right, Dr. Bree. So I like to have a little fun at the end of every episode when I have guests on. And so I throw out these quickfire questions. And so the goal is you got to be able to answer the question with the first thought that comes to mind as soon as you can answer
it. Mm-hmm. Let's see if I'm sharp enough today.
You want to get you a drink of water first?
No. I'm good.
All right, so here we go. Tell us what the typical first 2 hours of your day looks like.
Typical first 2 hours of my day, I try to spend an hour in prayer a day. I try to do it at the beginning of the morning. I am going to cook breakfast and have some type of tea from Tivana.
Did you say cook breakfast? You cook breakfast every morning?
Yes.
Like a
It's
full
rare that
breakfast.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. That's a blessing. All right. Apple or PC?
Apple.
Okay. Favorite food?
Good food. Probably seafood though. Probably crab.
There we go. Favorite movie?
Brown sugar.
That one threw me for a loop just there. Okay. All right. Favorite quote?
My mother always used to tell us when we were younger, you might get by, but you won't get over.
Top three items on your bucket list?
Take over the world. No, I'm just kidding. I want to create a full-fledged research firm that benefits communities of color. I want to make an impact in this field that even when I'm no longer, I might not be the guru anymore, that people can't mention the subject without mentioning my name. So that's my bucket list, to get to the point where every time people talk about Black millennials, they mention Brianna. These might be goals more than bucket list, though. And I don't really have a third bucket list. You want something exciting, huh? Like jump out of a plane. I don't have any of those.
Oh no,
I'm
not
not that
necessarily.
kind of rich.
No, that's
Yeah.
cool. I love it.
Bucket list.
I love it.
Oh, I
All
have
right.
to have a third. The third one would be to own more property.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So the last three books that you've read.
Well, I'm a full-time professor. I'm an associate professor of religion at Jarvis Christian College. Um, so the last book I read was Norman Geisler's Systematic Theology, The Story of Christianity, by Gonzalez, and The Sin of Certainty. And The Sin of Certainty, by the way, is by Peter Enns. So that's actually a good book to try out, to take for a spin.
We'll have that in the show notes. That's incredible. All right. What book other than the Bible has had the most impact on your life?
God's Yes Was Louder Than My No by Dr. William H. Myers.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. What has been the highest moment of your life?
Oh man, the highest moment of my life would have to be entrepreneur success. I don't know if that's just one moment, but to know that uh, to know that no one can take a job for you because it's yours. To know that no one can manage your ideas because the company needs you. So probably entrepreneurship has been the greatest high.
That's awesome. What was your favorite subject in high school?
Lunch off campus.
You like to eat food.
I really do like to eat food. Probably my strong suit was history. I had a teacher in high school, Miss Titterington, and she used to give us projects that were pretty creative. And so when I learned I could mesh history and creative arts together, I was sold.
It takes a doctorate degree to say her last name.
Love
All right.
Miss Titterington. I really do.
So if you could do any other career, what would you do?
These days I would probably be a marketing guru. Um, it's a skill that I learned over time, and I was talking to someone who's in Hollywood, and they said they were looking at my work, and they said their first question was, "Wow, does she have a marketing background?" And I was like, "Score!" I'm trying to tell you, I might go to Kramer Krasselt and start working for them at any given time, their top marketing agency. But honestly, that's a skill I've developed. Initially, I was going to law school. So I wanted to go to Notre Dame and go to law school back in the day, and which is why my master's from Baylor is in church state studies. That was the one that I thought would be a PhD, but I got into my bad accident and I couldn't complete it. So now I say I'd be in marketing, but if you would have asked me where my education was headed, it would have been law.
Love it. All right. Here's the last question. Did you win any superlatives in high school?
No, I don't think so. But no, I don't think so. I really and this is good for kids to hear. I was really lazy in high school. I didn't want any challenges. I was just coasting. I didn't even care to like win the student body, like in friendship. I was really living below my limits in high school. And that did not change until I was leaving high school and going to college. And my mother directed the welfare farm program. So she was pretty financially secure. And I remember some of her employees and just people in the community who benefited from her work they really thought I was going to be a loser. They thought I was going to be lazy and I would live off my mom because my mom had decent money and my mom took good care of me. And they really thought I was going to fail in life, not because I wasn't intelligent and not even because I wasn't driven, because I don't think most people realize I was pretty lazy and I wasn't driven. They actually just thought that my mother's care was going to handicap me. And I could not, the threat of embarrassing my mother was enough for me to kick it into high gear. And I just knew that I wasn't going to come back home a loser. And I knew they were not going to be able to ridicule my mother for loving me the way she did. And so I decided I was going to be amazing at life because my mother deserved to be able to walk into a room and be honored for the work that she had done and not ridiculed.
That's incredible. So kudos to your mom and to your family for.
She's awesome. She knows it, so I don't tell her a whole lot.
Yeah,
most she said stuff like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Where are you going?" I said, "I think I'm going to go to Cabo." She said, "Good, take me. I delivered you." So for one of my birthdays, I think it was last year. No, the year before that. I don't know. I took her to Cabo. She knows she's a rock star mom.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Well, Dr. Bree, thank you so much for being on today. It has been absolutely incredible to hear some of your thoughts and your insight and to challenge all of us and those that are listening to this. I hope that you had at least, I hope this has been a good appetizer to you around this dialogue around millennials. And those of us that are parents, of course, we have children that are going to be impacted by millennials directly. Some of you listening to this may have children who are millennials. I don't have children who are millennials. My children are a little bit younger than that, but they're going to be directly impacted by the work that millennials do. And so I'm committed, and I think Dr. Bree is as well. And there's lots of other people across the country and the world who are committed to figuring this out. We're not going to complain about the problems. We're going to figure out the solutions. And so thank you guys for tuning in today. Again, everything that we've talked about in terms of resources, book recommendations, people will be in the show notes in the bottom of this episode. I want to say thank you again. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. If you did and you would like to do some additional digging, feel free to send a message to us. I'm going to also have Dr. Bree's information in the show notes as well. You'll be able to get in touch with her directly and follow up with her. I want to beg you, I want to ask you, please go to iTunes or Google Play and leave us a rating and a review. That's actually how other listeners find us. Our announcer is going to come on and tell you some more details about how to connect with us on social media. Y'all know how I end every single week. Live wisely.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the Wise Idea Podcast with Christopher J. Harris. We hope you enjoyed our time together. If you did and would like additional resources and information, you can find the previous episodes, show notes, featured guest information, and more at www.thewисeideapodcast.com. We also invite you to join the conversation on social media. The Wise Idea Podcast is on Twitter and Facebook. Find us at The Wise Idea and at our Facebook group, The Wise Idea Podcast. On Instagram, find us at The Wise Idea Podcast. Our host is also on social media. You can find him regularly on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, all located at CJ Harris 1. Finally, if you enjoyed what you've heard, head over to iTunes and or Google Play and leave a rating and review for other listeners to find us. Our podcast is also on Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you the next time. Live wisely.
Get understanding.